Hi there, this is David Sargent with the Light Over Time podcast. I took it upon myself to start up an interview series. My first interviewee is Jason Dean, and I think it's a wonderful listen. Before you dig in, though, I wanted to give a shout out to Kurt and Taryn of Second Story Studios in downtown Marquette. You can find them on Washington Street. The studio right now is hosting a gallery, an exhibit of one of our members, and I think it's a really wonderful place to step into. That's why we did the interview there, and I hope that we can continue to do more interviews there. So please, if you like this type of content, if you end up liking this interview, come back and like the video, maybe share it around with someone who is going to appreciate an art-focused interview like this. I think the insight here is really helpful for people who might be starting out, getting into the business aspect of doing something they love creatively. So give it a listen, and then if you've got anything to say, I guess if you're watching the YouTube, leave a comment below. I can get messages to Jason, or if there's anything I can answer, I'd love to see in the comments. Thank you for watching. Please enjoy, and without further ado, here's the interview. All right, Jason.
David.
Thank you for joining me today. You're going to be the first in a series of interviews that I would like to do, featuring some of the members, or maybe eventually all the members of the Secret Society of the Finch Photography Club. What a mouthful that is.
Yeah, we need to maybe shorten that up.
The Finch Group. And what a joy it's been. Over a year of shooting, and we've gotten to know each other as a group. You and I, Miles, Tony, some people started from day one, and we've had a few people just join recently, which is really cool. So you're the first, and I'm really excited to get into this because I love your work. Your vision, the way you see the world, I'm right alongside you with that. I think I do a lot of things, but in my early days especially, I remember being that person that's got my camera just dug into the grass, just looking at things weird. And I connect with that. Yeah. And it's been really cool to see you go through that. And I love when you post stories or reels of you just talking to the camera and talking your stuff. So I'd like for you to, if you could, tell us a little bit about what you shoot right now, and then we'll get into where you came from.
Yeah. Okay. And I just want to say first, that means a lot. I love your work, and anytime, it's funny, compliments are always they always feel good, but it's when somebody who is legit and they know and they're hey, I love your work, it's oh my gosh, so that means a lot.
Well, I mean it.
I appreciate it. I really do. So right now I'm shooting a lot of abstract, a lot of macro, but a little unconventionally. I'm really over the last year, maybe 2 years, I've really been interested in exploring liminal space. So what that means, for the purposes of the shots I'm taking, is I'll frame a shot. It might be dewdrops and grass. It might be just leaves, a leaf, whatever. And I don't focus on a subject specifically. I'll just turn the focus wheel and see what I think looks cool.
I've seen you do it in your stories. I've seen you explain this.
Yeah. And I love the idea of I'm not trying to capture a thing necessarily. Sometimes I am. Sometimes I'm I want to capture this leaf, but I want to make it is that a leaf? Just find that line between where is this clearly reality and where is it's kind of operating this in between space.
Yeah.
So I've been really doing that, shooting a lot. I love like I've said in my stories, I may be laying in the grass and just turning my focus wheel, I could have 100 different shots that are completely different, just in the span of a few seconds, laying in the grass.
Yeah.
So it's been amazing to just explore, just really explore the world through the camera lens. Yeah. That's mainly what I'm doing right now. I'm shooting a lot of landscape and nature stuff too. I love shooting candids. different event stuff I know you wanted to talk about. So those are, I have a lot of different interests, but right now, like if I had to put myself in a box, it's abstract and macro. And
you don't have to put yourself in a box, but it's nice to get a brief overview of where you're at right now. So you do a lot of macro, a lot of nature stuff. You said that you've been getting into the idea of using the liminal space for the last 2 years. What kicked that off 2 years ago?
I think it was like it's not this crazy thing. I think I have this. It's a Nikon 105 2.8 macro lens.
I got to play with it for a minute.
Oh my gosh, it's
a cool lens.
It's a cool lens. Sometimes the autofocus could be a little finicky, but actually it's worked out to my advantage because I was like, and I don't remember the specific shoot, but I was doing autofocus and it kind of got like just really crossed up. But I was like, oh my gosh, this looks cool.
Oh, that's funny. Because your autofocus was hunting, right?
Yeah.
And so you saw what was happening as it was going back and forth. That's funny. So then you started to realize, I could play with this.
I could play with this, yeah.
Okay,
and so it was actually probably a year and a half ago, late summer of 2024. And I actually brought this picture, or one of the pictures from the series, to an early Finch meeting. It was just a tree in my backyard. It had rained. And again, I didn't go out with this intention, but the autofocus hunting, it caught these leaves in like this in-between stage with like the bokeh of the sunset through the water droplets, and I was just like, oh my gosh. And I just since then, like I've been on this mission. Like I want to find subjects, I want to find objects, and I want to explore where the line is between, this is this and this is this, but what's going on here?
Can I ask what are some driving factors that like literally make your feet stop in a position? Is it color? Is it textures? Is it combinations of things?
I will usually textures are a big one. Colors, not as much. I know I need to grow a lot in my understanding of like color combinations and stuff, but I'm more like if it's a texture, if it's a pattern, maybe an arrangement of different objects. That's usually what will get me to stop.
Sure.
And if anybody who's been on a photo walk with me will tell you, like, those things happen all the time.
Yeah.
I'm always like the last person in a group of walkers because I'm like, there's just so much cool stuff, So
I can empathize with that. Yeah. For me too, I think in that kind of space and that kind of state of mind, I'm looking for textures, very specific, small little things that I think could be interesting when you just play around with the angles, right? And you get low and you get close with a macro lens too. The possibilities are just so many.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about your origin story. When you first picked up a camera, or maybe when you first saw some photography that really inspired you and got you thinking.
So I was thinking about this because we had talked about what we were going to be talking about, and I feel like in a lot of ways I've actually had seeds of photography in me for a long time that I just didn't really do anything with. I remember as a teenager using disposable cameras often to just kind of take pictures of friends, family, things were happening, like trees, nature, but I didn't really think of myself as a photographer. I didn't really do anything with it. Smartphones came around, and it's the same kind of thing. I was taking a lot of pictures, but didn't really like think I was a photographer. It wasn't until actually what kickstarted my photography journey was theater. So this was 2017. My family was really into the performing arts, and I was like, hey, I think I could have fun with this. So I started auditioning for some shows, and 2018 in the summer I was cast in a local musical, Beacon on the Rock, at Lake Superior Theater. It was written by Shelley Russell, who's a former NMU theater professor, And it's a story about the immigrants who came to the UP, and they were, like they're from all these different backgrounds and everything, and how they had to kind of overcome that, work together, form community, and, in the backdrop of Lake Superior. And for me, it was this really like powerful recognition of like, I saw myself a lot in those immigrants, because I came here from downstate, so in some ways immigrated, and and then becoming a part of the community here. And I really really connected and resonated with the idea of Lake Superior as this like beacon of bringing people here, and just as a source of life and joy and happiness, and just awe, and just a connection to the world around me. And so I started to take photography a little more seriously over like the next year with my smartphone. 2019, I was really starting to get into it, but still not really like focused on being a photographer. And I was down at my parents' house. This is in December. They just had an ice storm, and I was down there. I was staying with them for work, and I'm just looking outside, and there's these just gorgeous ice crystals, icicles, ice on everything. My parents have this wonderful jack pine tree with these long, just soft leaves, and so they're coated in ice. And I remember just spending, I don't know how long I was out there, but just wandering around their yard, just taking pictures of everything. They have a clothesline, and the clothesline had all these little icicles, and I took this like kind of leading line shot. And so that's when I was like, okay, like I want to like really do this. And I ended up maybe a couple months later, I signed up for an iPhone photography class to learn how to use my iPhone camera. And I thought I was going to be just an iPhone photographer, and I was totally fine with that. iPhone 12 is coming out, and I'm trying to, my wife at the time, I'm like trying to like beg her, like, let me get the iPhone 12. And she, to her credit, she was like, you should just get an actual camera. So I ordered a Nikon D5600, and just to put a fine point on how little I actually knew about photography, I just ordered the camera body, because I was like, I thought that the lenses were like, I thought they were just extra stuff.
This
right?
is excellent. Keep going.
So the camera body comes, and I'm like, it's nothing, right? Like, you can't get anything. So like, crap, I have to order a lens.
Oh yes.
So I get the 18 to 55 kit lens, which I could have got together if I had been thinking, but I was
at no extra cost, right? That's wonderful.
And ever since then, I've been hooked.
Yeah.
Like, to me, what photography has given me is a way to experience the world and express myself and how I feel about my place in it and where I'm at in any given moment. It's funny because I write also. I write a newsletter. I write poetry, and I think I can express myself fine in those but like just to see like the core of like who I really am. Like, I don't think I've ever been able to do that the way I have with the camera.
Do you think your abstract photography speaks to who you are and how you feel? Speak to that a little bit.
So, I think that it's...
This is a difficult one, right? Like, if you're going to say that this is an expression of how you feel, and I just want to point it out because I see it a lot from you. So what are you feeling when you go out and you're looking for abstract?
I'm very open, and like I love living in this kind of like state of like wonder and awe and just like almost like a childlike, just that excitement of like newness. And I think that what abstract photography does is it allows me like to see something that I can't actually see. Like when I look at a leaf, I see a leaf, but when I'm like doing my abstract hunting with my macro lens, I see past the leaf. It's almost like I'm seeing into like the spirit world.
Is it kind of like a curiosity in the moment drives that?
Yes. No, I'm actually like if you look at any of my bios anywhere, like I define myself as a curious person. Like I'm really driven by the idea that I don't know everything. I don't know most things.
Sure.
And so yeah, I'm seeing something. I'm seeing what's not there, and I'm like, wow, what else? Where does this go? Like it's almost like Alice. You know, how far does the rabbit hole? Is that the expression?
So, yeah.
Yeah, and so I think that what that abstract photography allows me to do is it allows me to probe the depths of whatever moment I'm in, and also like whatever I might be feeling, and that's also so one of the things that really inspires me is music. Like I was talking to Tony in a recent shoot. He was saying he likes to go out and shoot, like just he wants to not have any external noise. He wants to just experience nature, experience the sounds. And I'm the opposite. Like if I'm not with a group of finches shooting, I've got my AirPods. I have a playlist that I've curated, songs that really I connect with on a deep level.
That's interesting.
And so when I'm out and I'm shooting, like I've got this music going, and it's helping me to like connect with myself. And then I'm also like getting that external, that external experience of like probing into the depths of this moment. And so like that's those two things kind of working together, like, the feedback I'm getting.
Do you ever feel disconnected if you've forgotten your AirPods and you're trying to get into that process?
It's weird. And I don't often forget it, but even like when I'm out shooting with everybody, like it is weird. I'm like, in some ways, I feel like in those moments, I'm like, I'm not, like I'm still getting the external, like I'm still drawn to the same kinds of things, but I'm like, I don't know that I feel as connected to them. And I will say that's actually not the worst thing, because one of the things that I've really come to appreciate about shooting with you and Miles and Tony and other people is that connection with other people, and that sense of community and belonging. I think for a long time when I started photography, I had this idea that like I was like an outsider. Some of that is kind of just a way that I've thought about myself in a lot of ways, but I never really thought about being connected to another group of photographers. And then when I met the people in the Finches, and everybody is like really cool and like great photographers, but also just really kind and fun people, like I started to realize that there was more to being a photographer than just like what I'm doing in my own. So even though like sometimes I don't get those emotional connections with shots, it's also still an experience that I love to do. And anytime like the group, our details freaks group is like, hey, like we're gonna do sunrise, like I'm like, oh man, like yeah, let's do this.
So it sounds like you've got like different state of minds for when you want to approach photography in different ways.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yep.
So like when you want to go in solo with the AirPods in, you let some curiosity and emotion drive what you do when you're on your own. And then like some of us who go out and shoot together, it's a fairly social event at that time. So maybe emotion doesn't really drive the process as much as you just enjoying the moment.
Yep.
Is that right?
No, that sounds fair. The other thing too that I like is just seeing other creative people like work. Like it's funny, when I first started shooting with Miles, he and I have very similar, I feel like, aesthetics, but we work completely differently. Miles is so meticulous.
Yeah.
Like he'll hunt for like the perfect shot. He brings his tripod and he'll like set up for, and I'm like Doug from Up. I'm like, squirrel, and like here, there, and I'm like, but I love watching you kind of like. I feel like you have this very methodical approach where it's like you've got your camera, you're like exploring the scene, and you're like figuring out like as you go. It's like, what is it that's gonna, and then all of a sudden you're like locked in.
Yeah.
And I think Tony has a little bit of that too. But I love watching other people work. It's
I think that's one of the benefits, a great benefit of having the photography club that we do. That we do this often enough that I think we see each other work, and you start to think like, oh, I wonder what would happen if I just set the tripod down and just take a look and take a breath, or I wonder what would happen if I took it off the tripod and just walked around for a few minutes and just looked at the viewfinder at a lot of different angles. I think a lot of us have gone through that, seeing each other work. Tony has said as much, about what he's been able to kind of learn just being around us, and I think that's a great benefit to any group that goes out like that.
Yeah.
So it's been great for me too. Yeah. So I know you for shooting abstract. You do a lot of nature work. I know what I expect to see from you when I see like a new story or something. I'm curious if you find inspiration from other creators, other photographers, artists, and if you try to emulate styles at all.
There's a couple photographers that I discovered within the last few years that I definitely inspire me. I don't know that I would say if I try to emulate their styles, but the work that they do, in some ways, I feel like gives me the permission structure to just go crazy because I feel like they're pushing their specific envelopes, if you will.
Yeah.
The first one that I discovered was, and I'm going to pronounce both of their names terribly because they're Eastern European, and so I'm just caveat that.
Yeah.
It's Yuri Herbacek. He's a wildlife photographer. I actually discovered him late 2022. And Yuri takes these incredible wildlife photographs, but he's not taking like a picture of like a bird and like getting it like tack sharp. He incorporates a lot of like motion blur. He incorporates a lot of like multiple exposure kind of effects. Cool. So when I discovered that, I was blown away because it really, I think it spoke to me that that you don't have to like worry so much about like getting an image perfectly if you're able to capture something that's interesting, that expresses what you're trying to convey. I remember after I read that article, I actually leaned into like a lot of handheld long exposure stuff for a while. And even to this day, I'll do that with waves. I love going down to the Black Rocks and like figuring out how far down or up,
slow or fast,
how slow I can make the lens, and and capture that sense of motion. So I and I think there's some other photographers that are doing work in that, but Yuri was the first one that really kind of like caught my attention and even still, like I don't do a lot of wildlife photography, but like if I'm out in the lake and I see like a flock of geese or something, like I'll still try to like catch them in flight with like motion blur. And some of that, honestly, like there is a part of that is driven by necessity. I mean, I'm not rocking high-end gear, so some of that is like I I'm not going to be able to go out and like take this gorgeous picture of like a duck that's, you know, because I don't have all the reach and
Sure.
all that stuff, but it's like I can still be in this moment. I can still like capture something that I think is interesting, and I love the idea of incorporating multiple dimensions into still photography. Like if you can have motion or scale. Like I love ways that I can make a photograph feel like more than a photograph.
Sure.
And
in both ways that blend what reality feels like and maybe what your mind with this abstract notion does for it. So, because sometimes I feel like when you post a photograph, I have no idea what scale we're on, and that's a really interesting tool to use one way or the other, right? Incorporating people or something for reference of scale can help, like show the grand scale of like a landscape, or you can completely remove anything, right? That has any notion of scale indicators, and then that leans into abstract, right? I feel like you do that. Maybe I'm speaking for you, so I apologize, but I feel like you're good at doing that.
Thank you.
So I was curious, and you talked about Yuri and these permission structures and maybe breaking rules that nobody really ever sets, but you started out kind of breaking rules. And not a lot of people do that. A lot of people start from where do the rules begin and how do I operate in them? So it's really cool to talk to someone who's kind of breaking ground in the space of having no structure in a way that fuels creativity. I think that's really cool.
Thank you. I feel like, so in a lot of ways, I'm the kid who would have always colored in the lines, but then there's always been a part of me that's like, that's a little bit like, why, so and I sometimes, and it depends on the day, frankly.
Sure.
So I think when I was learning about photography and like learning these rules, the rule of thirds and everything, it's like why,
what if I didn't?
Yeah. And one of my favorite things to do, I did a lot of this last year in the fall. I was really experimenting a lot with like crazy, like I would like set my focus point and like as far to the like corner as I could, or like trying to focus on like the thin line of like a leaf, and so it's like there's actually one of the photos that I took that really comes into mind. It was if you look really close, you can just see you can see this line, but it just looks like somebody's like dumped a couple of colors and just like smeared them on. I guess my hope is that that somebody will come across that photo and they'll see that and they'll maybe appreciate that didn't just happen by accident.
Right.
It wasn't just that I took a bad photo that just happened. Like I was very intentional on like setting this random focus point and like the farthest reaches of the picture, and I think that's one of the big challenges that I feel like I have specifically is so a lot of the photography that most people consume is on their phones, on social media, and it's like you're swiping and it's like, oh, I like this, I don't like this. So I don't know, to what extent that kind of is coming across to folks. I think there's a group of people that do enjoy my work that I think are kind of locked in, but I think most of the people that probably just come across it are like, okay, like I don't know what that is.
Right.
But that's also not like who I'm really making images for. Right?
That's okay.
So
yeah, I think that's totally fair. This is all great, and I think this is a good opportunity to move into the next topic I wanted to talk about, which was kind of like working in photography a little bit. And I didn't realize that you actually got your start in theater with photography. And so I'm curious now, does this creative part of you in this almost controlled chaos nature of looking for things where nobody else is looking. Does that play a role in you working in like theater, photography, or like volunteering for UP200?
I think it does, and I think what the through line is just is storytelling.
Yeah.
Like I think that all of my photography has a very strong story component. Now, most of my abstract stuff, I'm telling my story. Maybe it's a story of how I'm feeling in a given moment or whatever's going on. But I love just using my photographs to tell stories. And so when I'm doing like UP200, I'm drawn to I like to take pictures of the mushers as they're coming past on Washington Street. But I'm more interested in being out in the middle of the woods and like the freezing cold, where you have a volunteer who's they're having to write the dog times, like they've got a headlamp and they're writing in pencil as it's snowing, or like they're heating themselves by this like barrel that's got a fire in it. Like those are the stories that I really love to tell. Like
Sure.
the ones that people aren't gonna see unless they're looking for them. Theater, I think what really scratches my itch is this. There's reciprocal, like I'm experiencing the story and I'm telling the story. All of this is kind of happening like as I'm going, and I love. There's this like. I feel like I'm able to communicate in like an instant, like the emotion that this story has made me feel, while also like understanding that like I'm there to do a job, right? Like I have to like, I can't get too like I don't like mess with like exposure settings or like speed setting, right? Because it's not for me to like create these like crazy abstract images.
And that's why I asked, because I see what you're driven by, and I'm curious where that is able to land in that space.
Yeah. No, I think that I think and part of it I think is and I don't know that I actually like actively think about this, but as you're asking it, I'm very respectful of what the people on stage, like the time that they've put in, the effort. All of those people are working like dozens and hundreds of hours to tell this story.
Yeah.
And so it is really their story to tell. Like I love the experience and how I'm able to like still communicate my own through my own lens, but ultimately like I understand that I'm there to help tell their story. Yeah. And I love that. Like I love that I've been trusted to do that, and I've been blessed to do it several times.
I don't think that's an aspect of working in photography that enough people talk about, is the fact that there are these moments that clients or people you have a relationship with really trust you and are vulnerable with you to document something like that. And it's something you gotta take with a lot of respect. So I hear you. So talking about like work in photography, I think a lot of photographers who start out using it as a creative outlet and stick with it end up somehow getting into working with photography, and that's like taking money to do a job that somebody is directing you to do. How much are you working in photography right now, and what are you hoping to take on?
Yeah, so I'm available for hire.
Yeah.
So right now, what I'm I think really focused on is increasing the potential opportunities for revenue streams, because what I ultimately want to do is I want to be less of like a hey I'll take your family portraits, and more of like here's the pieces of art that I've created.
Yeah.
And if I'm gonna do that, I obviously selling pieces of art is a part of that, but I think I'm gonna have to like like I said I write, so I think how can I monetize that? I've been playing behind the scenes on like streaming my photo editing, and so it's like I'm in the process of identifying potential alternate revenue streams, while also still like I am available to to take portraits, to do event photography. I will say one really cool opportunity that I'm working on building. I'm gonna call it something like homemade art, and what the premise is like, everybody's got like maybe they like when I think of my parents' house, like they've got that pine tree, they've got this really cool apple tree in the backyard, or like you may have like this very cool family heirloom inside. Like I think everybody where they live, they have something about their house that's very cool and very unique to where they live. And how cool would it be to own a piece of art like based on that thing, and it's like a complete one of one. Like this is not like, so what I'm envisioning is I would go in, work with the family, identify kind of what they're looking for, make this piece of art, and then like they get this piece of art. It's not like I'm selling it on my store. It's not like whatever. It's just like it's kind of like an NFT, except if it's like physical, right? Yeah. Like it's a physical NFT. It's like this is you get this.
I don't think you have to call it an NFT, because I think there's a lot of history of art making where people get a one-of-one, an original.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's as popular today, but I do think that more artists need to be maybe commissioned is the word for this, to make an original.
Yeah.
I think more people need to appreciate the process of making an original piece of art like that. It reminds me of a time when I was taking a photograph of a comet. It might have been Comet Neowise in 2020. And I was shooting over Lake Charlevoix in Charlevoix, and it was the composition was one boathouse. It was a large house on the lake, and the comet was shooting down over this house, and I posted the picture online, and a couple of weeks later, the family who owned the boathouse got in touch with me and was like, hey, we love that photograph. Can we get this like printed huge to put it in the house? And I was able to print it. I think I did like a 4 foot, it was vertical. It's like huge. So I got to go up to the house and help see them install it.
That's so cool.
And now that picture with this comet above their boathouse is going to live there probably for the rest of the time they spend in that house. And that's what that reminds me of. And I do think you have a wonderful idea that I hope people take advantage of.
Yeah.
People should do that.
I think they should, and because it's not only, because that's the thing that they can pass on for like generations, and just like the idea of like, I mean, it's, I've not done it yet, and so I won't presume, but man, to think like that I could make a piece of art that like will be handed down for generations, like would be insanely awesome. So yeah, I'm working on kind of fleshing out what that whole process is going to look like. And honestly, I think part of what's exciting to me about that, not just the ability to offer like a, this very unique piece of art, but like working with families and like talking to them about like what they really like about their house or where they live, and because so my educational background is actually social work. Like I graduated in 2010 from Northern with a social work degree.
Sure.
So I'm very, very interested in like, just people and how we interact, and all of those. I mean, all of the different ologies that come from that. But like the idea of like working with a family and like creating something that not only I'm proud of, but that they're proud of, that they would want to show everybody. And again, like, man, if it like handing it down, it's just it's something I'm really excited about, and if I can get that to take off, that would be awesome.
I think communities have a handful of people who just want to be like generational storytellers. It sounds like you're just one of those people.
Yeah.
And I think Marquette is lucky to have you as one of those people. So working with people, working on your own with solo work in nature, working with theater, there are storytelling threads in there that are common. Some of those allow you a lot more creativity, and some of them kind of force you to put up this kind of wall, like this boundary where respect kind of overtakes some of the creative drive that you might otherwise want to take part in. So you touched on this a little bit, where I asked you how much more paid work you wanted to do. I'm curious how you might see yourself evolving your work to include the ability to be as creative as you want to be. And you started to talk about this project, and I would love to see this manifest. Maybe talk to some other ways that you see maybe like in the next 10 years. What kind of services or what kind of photography you might want to dive into that kind of gets you paid but allows you to be fully creative.
Right. So one of the things an idea that I've loosely kicked around for years, and I don't know, I mean, there's probably a technical name, but the inspiration that I think of is like a band who records an album, right? So it's like you have this album, this collection of songs, and these songs are like, written about a specific, whatever the specific, like a specific time, a specific, specific relationships, but it's thematically unified. There's a finite number of these songs. It's an album, and that's how an artist like wants that to be experienced. And there's singles and such, but I think most musicians, when they're making an album, they want people to experience the album. And I would love to do something like that. And I don't know if this is like something that would be, like creating a gallery, or like a limited edition, like, a series of photographs that are like thematically linked or whatever. But like that's something that I have a lot of interest in, is like, it's kind of like the photography equivalent of an album.
Yeah.
I'm also like, but I guess to go back to just the word gallery, like one of the things that I'm exploring is using like virtual gallery space, and whether, I mean, it would be cool if that is something I could monetize, but I love the idea of, I mean, let me back up from that, and let me just say I am 100% physical prints in physical space, bar none, the best way to experience I think any kind of art. So but it's also like really hard, especially like being new. It's like I'm submitting for these calls, and then you wait a few weeks, and then you find out, look, you got rejected. But then if you get accepted, then it's like, well, now I have to get this, like, I have to make this physical piece of art, and I have to get it there. And so there's a lot of logistical things where I think if I can really figure out the virtual space, it opens up a different way for people to experience art. It gives me more flexibility. It also allows me, one of the spaces I was looking at early on, like, this person had incorporated like video, incorporated audio, and so I don't do a ton of video, but you referenced it, like I do from time to time. I'll take, when I'm laying in the grass, I'll take these short videos. Like it would be cool to be able to incorporate that into a gallery. Yeah. I'm also like, I'm interested in making music. I'm a drummer, so some people might question if I'm an actual musician or not, but like I do have.
Drummers are legitimate musicians. Come on now.
Hey, we got can't cut that. That's got. But using, there's so many cool apps where you can like create music, and I'm like, man, how cool would it be to, like, I've got my very own virtual gallery, and you come into my gallery and like there's music that's playing that like I made this music, and like you're seeing these images that I made, and I think there's like a lot of creative opportunity there, and obviously to bring it back, I think, to what you're asking, the money part of it, that's It's something I'd have to figure out, right? Because that all sounds incredible, but if it's like, if I'm just paying money to host the space,
yes,
that's not really.
I think a lot of artists go through this like groundwork they have to lay to make it clear like what their intention is. There's some time that has to lapse for people to realize, oh, you're serious, and the work that you produce ends up getting better and better. I think when I was doing a lot of my like professional work, let's say from like 2015 to 2020, I had already 5 years before 2015 of like doing landscape work and working with people. And by the time I got to like 2015, it had become pretty clear that my preference and style was a good blend of using landscape to supplement portrait photography. I would do like if I'm doing a wedding or if I'm doing like a family portrait, I would say I'm not a studio photographer. I don't use artificial lighting, but I will recommend you these 3 great locations that I know the times for when sunset or sunrise is preferable. I can tell you, let's pick 3 dates because I can check the weather and make sure like we've got good high altitude clouds for good color, and the best day will get us the one that's going to get the best color in that's the type of experience that I ended up blending in with my actual professional work that gave me a creative edge that was a little more unique than the other 100 photographers listed on a Facebook group, right? When someone's asking, like, who do I go to? Some people were able to say, look what he did for me because no one else was doing this kind of thing, right? So that's kind of where my mind is at when I'm asking you how you implement some of your most creative work into the thoughts of where am I going to take this in the future?
Yeah.
So I appreciate your answer because you've got a couple of things in that fire that I want to see become real.
Well, I appreciate that, and I also like as you were talking, I was like, I'm like taking mental notes because I'm like, that's just so that's cool, like how like intentional you were about that, and I think that's the word intentional is kind of my buzzword for 2026, and is like figuring out like, you know, not just, I mean, there is an element of trial and error, but the trial and error is coming from a place of like, you know, of that intentionality and figuring out, is this something that moves the needle? And if it is, then yeah, like let's do it. And if not, like I kind of need to be okay with pivoting or cutting ties. One of the things that we haven't really talked about, but like with my kind of like process from like camera to a picture that somebody's going to see, there's often like weeks and months that are going to pass between those two things. I've never been a huge fan of like, you know, getting home and uploading stuff and then like editing and turning it. Like I do that sometimes because you do kind of, especially with an event like Orhenge, for example, like you do need to be able to like, you know, hey, look, I'm over here too, right?
Yes, Northern Lights.
Yeah, Northern Lights. Oh my gosh. Before I started shooting the Northern Lights at all, man, I would like, I would not get on social media the next day because I'm like, I just know that it's just going to be all these incredible pictures, and I missed it. I was sleeping. And
being an artist is complicated and challenging sometimes. Yes,
but so I'll allow a lot of time between when I take the image and when and I do that because I want to make sure that the work that I'm putting out, like I think this is good. It's, you know, it's not, and you've been, I know we've talked about this where it's like you'll take a photo and like right away you're like, oh man, this is awesome, and then later on it's like, yeah, you know.
I think it helps you stay sharp on what your point was.
Yeah,
I do. I think back in the early days, let's say the first 5 years of me shooting between like 2011 and 2016, I would shoot and go home and edit and just be done with it. And then now that I look back on that work, I think a lot of times I wished I'd given that breathing room because I probably could pare down a lot of what I ended up posting.
Paring down, yeah. Oh my gosh. And especially, so as an abstract photographer, I'll take several shots that are, and not that this is inherent to abstract photography, but just I'll take a lot of shots that are like they're basically the same. Maybe this a little bit the focus is basically the same, right? And I think at first, it's like, oh, I want to share them all, and then no, you realize like, okay, I have to make a choice, like, because nobody wants to see 3 of the exact same shot.
I still struggle with that. I remember Miles and I went out to take some photographs at Carp River Falls, and I still have about 100 shots of these mushrooms that I starred 100 different shots of. I edited them all, and now I'm struggling with which ones do I not post, which ones do I post, which do I even like love any one of these? I'm not sharing 100 mushroom shots,
right?
But I think the whole thing was kind of cool. So sometimes I'll post a carousel of like 10 or 15, and then I start to like doubt myself, like, oh, is any one of these cool, or am I just living in my own head right now?
Well, yeah.
Right? So I don't know if you feel for that at all.
No, I do, but I think what I do in those situations a lot of the times is I'm like I'm not going to share any of these.
That's what I ended up doing.
Yeah, because it's like, if I don't feel strongly enough, then it's like, but then I think where I do still struggle with that is like I've shared images where it's like I need to share something, I'll share this, and then somebody like loves it, right? And so there is this reality that like any given image that you take could be somebody's favorite image that you've ever and there is this like tension where I'm like I'm making this executive decision, this photograph will never be seen, but I know that like I'm also like I am kind of depriving somebody somewhere of like something that they would have loved.
But your control in that grants you what's going to ultimately be a more masterful portfolio.
Yeah.
Right? Because what you don't release shouldn't be released if it doesn't reflect what you want shown.
Yep.
So I think that's okay. And I even like I just said, I still struggle. And I think back on projects like that where in the moment, in the first couple of years, I would have thrown all of those out. I would have posted them all, and I would have been excited. You're right. Somebody would have been like, that's amazing. Now, I'm still struggling with it because that was only last fall, but I'm glad that I haven't posted them because in the moment I loved it. I brought a little light, and I'm thinking to myself now, maybe that was just an unfinished project. Maybe there's more that I can go back on for that. Right?
No, I love, and one of the things we had talked about was just kind of, and we've probably kind of talked about it still, but like specifically like being intentional about like and I guess the album conversation kind of, but even outside of like that, I think I want to be more intentional about like, about projects. There's still very much this kind of like haphazard quality to what I'm shooting. It's like, I feel like shooting right now, I'm going to go out and shoot, or maybe, like Miles puts out the call, but like to really, to really be intentional about like, I want to photograph, maybe it's like, I want to photograph this mushroom over like a period of time and see how it changes, or I've always kind of been fascinated by that idea of like how to really capture decay and growth and change. Like, I think the fantasy in my head is like just having a camera like a tripod where I can just set up this camera and just not even time-lapse stuff is incredible, but I like would love to just I'm gonna snap a picture today. I will snap a picture. You see this occasionally, people will take self-portraits of themselves over a year.
Yes.
I love that, man. I love just when they put that all in the video, and you just see like their hair growing and their facial hair growing, like that kind of stuff.
Or with nature, I've seen where a camera will take a shot every day, and they end up putting it all together, like time slice photography. Have you seen that?
Yeah.
Where it's like a little vertical slice and they put it all together in maybe a 3x2 aspect at the end, and it's like 1,000 photos, and you see like seasonal changes. And I think that's really cool too. I think we're in a good space right now. Is there any last thoughts that you have hanging around that you want to get out before we outro this?
If anything that I've said has resonated with anybody, you can find me at thejasondean.com. That's where I primarily share my work, and that also will get you to like my newsletter and all of the other creative endeavors that I do. But I would love anybody that is like what I'm saying is like kind of tickling their earworm or whatever, reach out. Like, I'd love to talk about this stuff. Obviously, I've had such a fun time talking with you today.
Thank you.
So
I have too. Well, great. I think that a lot of people are going to be excited about what you've got in store. I know I am. I appreciate you sitting down with me today, Jason.
Likewise. Thanks, David.
Yes. All right. That's it. We did it.
Awesome.